So Habiadun, over to you. When do you want us to start? Do you still want to wait for people or you want to keep writing?
Um, okay, let's dive into it. Good evening, everyone. Nice to have you here. How is the weekend going? You can unmute and tell us how your weekend is going.
It's fine.
So, who is working? Who is chilling? Who is trying to upskill?
I have to work because of you people, so yeah, I'm
Oh,
working.
it's because of us. That's a good one. That's a good one. What of Shanice? She working, she chilling, catching up on drama, binge watching TV shows. Who is relaxing? All right. So I'll be sharing my screen shortly. Let me know if you can see my screen, please.
I can see your screen.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Today we're talking on understanding user behavior metrics, and this is a free masterclass by Techlytics.Africa. So Techlytics is a technology workforce development and consulting organization. We are dedicated to empowering ambitious professionals and businesses with the essential skills needed to thrive in the ever-evolving world of technology. We have a strong focus on preparing professionals for the future of work. We have successfully trained and mentored more than 3,000 people across various educational institutions and corporate settings. Our specialized training programs primarily revolve around data analytics, software, low or no code, and product management. Techlytics as a consulting company offers tech consulting to startups and tech organizations and tech enterprises alike on digitization and product management. Now, with the evolution of work, especially after COVID, there's been a change in the way we work, where we work, and what work that we do. There's been an increased trend in the demand for new skills, both technical and non-technical skills, to fulfill emerging roles in today's workplace. The skills that employers value and rely upon are changing, and in turn, there's been a skills gap that has developed that employers struggle to hire appropriately trained workers, leaving many roles open and unfulfilled in the organization. And that's where Techlytics comes in. What we do, we provide on-demand online courses to equip professionals with the necessary skills to integrate and succeed in both technical and non-technical roles in the workplace. This is achieved in partnership with practicing professionals like Bankole and this evening to provide best-in-class course content for the global market. Our traction so far. Techlytics started as a YouTube channel on Microsoft Excel tutorial in 2020. And officially, Techlytics was launched on February 25th, 2022. And since we've launched, we've had 895 new signups, 103 lecture completions, 33 course completions, 153 active students, and 299 active YouTube subscribers. Techlytics is led by Oluwatayo Winkule. Oluwatayo is a certified chartered banker, a certified Microsoft Excel specialist, and Safe practitioner. She has a proven track record of breaking complex concepts into relatable bits, making the learning process engaging and accessible to learners at all levels. You need to be in a class. Through her engaging teaching methods, she ensures that learners grasp the subject matter effectively and apply it confidently in real-world scenarios. The rest of the team, there's Jedida Okonko. Jedida is a product manager. Myself, my name is Abiodun Olani. I'm also a product manager at Techlytics. There's Adenike Adeyeye. Nike is a data analyst, and we have Aurelua, our social media manager, and Timothy, our graphics designer. So today we'll be talking about understanding user behavior metrics, what it's all about. So over to you, Bankole.
All right, thank you, Abiodun. Okay, let me quickly share my screen.
Okay.
Um, all right, let me know when you can.
Yes.
Okay. Hi everyone.
You can see your screen.
Okay. And can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So hi everyone. My name is Bankole. So today I'll just be talking through what essentially user behavior metrics is all about. Right. It's a very foundational course, or a foundational, basically, the slides or the content of the slide are very, very foundational, really. And I would have loved to do both the practical and theoretical part of things today, but I mean, maybe we'll schedule the practical part for another time. But for today, we'll just be going through the theoretical parts of user behavior metrics with some real life examples of how companies that we may or may not know have used these metrics to improve their products continuously. So my name is Bankole, like I said, I'm a product manager. Yeah, that's all about, that's my short bio. So for today, we'll be talking about user behavior, the just high level about user behavior. Then we'll also look at some key user behavior metrics. Then we go into what active users are all about and why active users matter. Then basically walk you through how to analyze active user trend at a foundational level. Then also talk about user engagement, tracking engagement with heatmap. Then we'll talk about retention. Then we'll talk about CAM, which is a complaint, how they use retention to increase the revenue. We'll also talk about conversion metrics, then the conversion funnel, then talk about some key takeaways, and I'll take questions at the end. You got any? So user behavior, right? So user behavior data really is really critical for making informed product decision that help us as product managers really to improve our products. Of course, there are two types of data. There's qualitative and there's quantitative, right? So the qualitative has to do largely with talking to your customer, user research, and try to get insights from that conversation that you ought to continuously have with your customers. The quantitative, it's basically you're going deep into the data, and that's of course sits with you as a product manager in collaboration with different key members of the team. It could be data analysts, it could be data engineers, it could also be software engineers, right? The reason why it's a Netflix picture here is because I want to quickly ask a question. Like when you think about Netflix from a product perspective, or no, from a user perspective, what comes to your mind apart from it being a streaming website? What's something about Netflix that stands out for you? Anyone?
So I'll say personalized recommendations.
Okay. Okay. Another person? Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right, right? Netflix have found a way to use is that a hand?
It's a comment.
Oh, okay. What's the comment?
Recommendations as well.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, so both correct answers, right? So Netflix also these are examples of Netflix or a real life company using data to make user experience very, very friendly, right? So Netflix have found a way to combine user behavior data like viewing history with some of data of machine learning really apply machine learning on this data that they have, right, to build a very effective recommendation engine, really, and which is also based on collaborative filtering, which basically is gathering data on user behavior and preferences, right, and using that information to make recommendations to other users with similar tastes, right? And to do this, what Netflix have done is that they track the movies, the TV shows that we all watch, as well as how we rate them for those that rate movies or TV shows after watching them, right? And it also collects data on some other factors, really, such as if you've seen a set of movies with the same actors, so they'll start recommending movies from that actor. Or if we've seen, let's say, 4 or 5 movies from MGM Studios, for example, they start recommending more MGM Studios movies for you, right? So that's an example of how you can use, how you can bake in, or how you can use user behavior data really to improve the stickiness of your product, really. Then for some of the key user behavior metrics that we'll cover today, the core ones are active users, user engagement, retention and churn, which essentially go hand in hand, then as well as conversion metrics. So these metrics basically tie into the phases of your product, right? From discovery to user acquisition to activation to retention, as well as the most important thing, which is revenue for any business, except if you're working in the public sector, really, right? But if you are working in private sector, it's revenue for your business or for the business or for the company you work for, or if it's a company, for your own company, right? It's making it very critical for everyone building a product. So what's active users? So active users really are calculated over for a time period, really daily, weekly, monthly, really, and these are people that continually use your product, really. So of course, there's that daily active users, which are people that engage with your products, and from daily active users, you can actually get your monthly active users and yearly if you do that. So to get, of course, the formula for getting daily active users really is total number of users who have performed at least one action on a given day, right? You categorize that as active users. For some companies, really, they have a very strict rule around active users, which is users that are actually performing a value creating action on that particular product. They categorize them as active users. So they're essentially unique users engaging with your product during a time period. So why active users matters, right? So active users really, as of course, as the name active users, right? They at the core of it, they indicate that users are deriving value from your product. So that's why they are continuously using your product. Really, the more active users you have, really, for that product, it indicates or signals high engagement and stickiness, right? And there's also a strong correlation between your active users and your revenue performance, really. So at the other side of the screen, you see a small chart, really, Zynga, which is Zynga is essentially it's a mobile gaming company, right? From the red line indicates revenue, while the blue line indicates the daily active users. So as you can see, and the growth in their daily active users, really, you can also see the growth in their revenue. The revenue, which is around people doing in-app purchases, people interacting with the ads that were placed inside those games. So the more people that play those games, the more people they get to make in-app purchases, and the more impressions those ads get, and sometimes, of course, clicks for people to click on those ads, and perform any other action to perform on that ads. Right. So when we talk about analyzing active users, I mean, essentially you have to track. I mean, it's a I would say it's compulsory, really, right? Or it should be habits of a product manager, really, to make sure they track active users over time. For the purpose of this presentation, it's a line chart that is here, which is the previous chart that was shown in the previous slide. Really, but you can anything that you're comfortable with. If you want to use an Excel or if you want to use a simple table to track that, but you should be looking at your active users and tracking the growth of that number, right? So it could be done daily, it could be done weekly, it could be done month on month, or it could be done quarterly, but you need to be looking at that number, right? So if an active user is flatlining or active users are flatlining or dropping, you have to do some form of investigation from what is causing this drop in now active users. And of course, since the quantitative, so this is the quantitative data that is telling you that users are dropping off or flatlining or users are not coming back to your products, then you now have to follow up with that after some form of investigation. You have to follow up with that with the qualitative part, which is engaging your users, talking to your users and try to understand the pain points, and of course, following up with fixing those issues that were raised. Then because next part is in terms of user engagement, right? Excuse me. So engagement basically qualifies how users are interacting with and deriving value from your product, right? And there are some standout, depending on your product, really, there are standout key metrics, right? So it could be session length, really, and that could be an engagement metrics for you. I mean, if you're in the video space, you're around videos, right? Session length could be very important for you, right? Then screens and feature visited as another way for you to be able to track user engagement, right? Are they visiting this particular screen more than any other screen, right? And also action taking. So are they clicking to make purchases? Are they clicking to view details of a product? Are they clicking to make a transfer? Are they clicking to do any form of action that your product, any form of action that your product offers that the users, right? High engagement really indicates that people or your product is found useful and is sticky, right? So one way for tracking engagement is with heat map, right? So heat map basically just shows engagement for each section of your application website, right? So of course, as a product manager or anybody working in product, really, right? You should know some of your value creating moments and map that out, really. And of course, there for heat maps. So heat maps, you don't have to do heat maps manually, really. There are tools available, which I've talked about at the end of this talk. Really, there are tools available that can help you track engagements with heat map. So the purpose of this, I did a small heat map just to illustrate how that can be analyzed further, really. So when you color code, some of the using color coding can help you make sense of how users are engaging with your product or each features of your product or each pages, how they are moving from one page to another, which page is getting more engagement than the other, right? And the one that's not getting engagement, how to investigate further, right? So you can basically use that. Right. So on this heat map, so we're just going to this heat map. So this heat map is basically for a fictitious e-commerce website, an engagement heat map. So you can see on one side there's the home screen, category, products, carts, and checkout. Right then at the bottom, there's some sub menus, really. I call them sub menus. There's menu, the content, the search, the promos, and the footer. Right. So if from this, right, you can see it's also a key that interprets how the interaction score works, right? So from the very yellow, you see that that's 10 low interaction. Then when you get to the top, you see the red bit of things, which is 60, indicates high interaction. So when you look at products, right, for example, right, you look at products and content, bottom here, you can see that the interaction is low, probably in the range of 20 to 30, right? So as a product manager, really, being able to investigate this is, or this has already given you, at this point, people are going to products and they're searching, right? They are interacting with the menus, right? But the content, the engagement is low, right? Why is that, right? So the first thing could be that you check the reviews. Are there bad reviews of people complaining about what they bought versus what they received, right? Are there low reviews on that product? Or are there a lot of returns as well for different products, really? You have to do a bit more finding, right? So this basically gives you a direction of the findings that you need to do, right? So you have to talk to your customers to distill the feedback, then you can make necessary adjustments. It could just be that the where the product, so the content in this scenario is the product details. You know, when you go to an e-commerce site, I mean, you see the images, then you scroll a bit down and you see the product details. It tells you the specification of the product, what the product does, and any other information about a product. So it could be that that's quite hidden, so users don't get to see those things, and they fall into, especially for electronics, right? There are some electronics that have some very little, that have little differences really between different things. So it could be that that's the reason why users are leaving bad reviews and say, oh, they bought this thinking that this will happen, but unfortunately that's not happening. So it could be that you just have to move that bit of product details to the top a bit so it is visible without scrolling. So that's just an example of how tracking heat map can lead to actionable action, can lead to actions from you talking to your customers and actually making improvements for that product. The next bit of things will be around retention. So retention and churn go hand in hand, really. So while retention is the percentage of users who remain active over time, churn is the opposite of that, is the percentage of users who remain inactive over time, right? And retention is a very key metrics, because even as a small increase in your retention can exponentially increase revenue, right? So that, of course, that's why the ability to retain users is very key for sustainable growth. So for the user retention curve, again, these graphs there are tools that allow you to make graphs like this, really, or to track retention. But this is a generic retention curve, really, just to make a point. So for a retention curve, there are three areas really in the retention curve that you should look out for, what actually exists, really. So there's the high initial churn, there's the engagement valley, and there's the flattening curve. So initially, when you product launch, you announce your product, a lot of people come in, sign up to check it out, right? But there will be a steep drop after a few weeks, right? From users that initially try the product and say, okay, well, it's not for me, and they leave, right? Then there's the engagement valley, or it's either, to just go back to the initial churn, it's either this not for me, or I don't quite understand this product. Then there's the engagement valley, which is often a dip in the curve around a few more weeks, really, as the initial novelty wears off before habits form, really. Then there's the flattening curve area, which is happens basically over time, really, where the remaining users become highly engaged and less likely to churn. So it becomes very stable at that point, where you have more users that are engaging with your product. They find it useful, they get value from it, so they remain. So by analyzing this shape of this curve and the slope, really, we can identify periods, really, as a product person. You can identify periods were of high risk for churn, and also they're able to prioritize interventions really during these phases. So one could be at the high initial churn. It could be you have to look through the onboarding process again. Do I need to make it shorter? Do I need to be more? Do I need to explain things more for people to understand, right? Or do I need to do another form of activation, really, to reduce the initial churn? Then the engagement value, this, of course, these people have been on using your product for a while, right? And they drop off, really. Again, to be able to combat that, or really, or you need to do some form of re-engagement campaigns during the engagement valley, right? So you need to send emails, personalized emails to your users, or do you want to do some form of reaching out really to those users to basically ask if you have any issues using your product, right? Or you want to do some discount promo really to get users back to use your product. So those are questions that you should be asking yourself at that point. Then the flattening curve, these are your active users, right? But you want to keep them as well, right? So you have to think about, how do I make the existing features better? How do I introduce new features? How do I provide new content or new features to basically keep those power users that are still using your product, right? So those are some of the guidelines, really, basically as a guide that should guide you when thinking about how to take actions in these three slopes, this graph. Then so this is an example really of Calm. So Calm is I mean, if you're into meditation, it is a leading app for meditation, sleep stories, and relaxing content. However, like many applications out there, right, there was a period where they faced challenge with retaining users long term, right? So their internal data revealed that there was high drop off after the first month of use. Right? Only about 10.2% of users were active after 6 months. Churn was very, very high. From that number, I mean that churn was very, very high. So what Calm was able to do is that you're able to use like a form of cohort analysis to identify usage patterns, and he found out that less experienced people really into maybe the newbies into meditation really, and they use the app sporadically, right? Power users really were still there consistently, but they had a lot of newbies, and that's still trying to get their head around meditating really. So the solution for them at that point was they launched something called the daily calm feature to drive habit formation, because I mean, meditating is a habit that you need to form daily. Like you have to be consistent, really. So they launched something called Daily Calm, which essentially prompts users to meditate at certain times each day, just so that you don't forget. Really, system of reminder. So, and they used push notification to reinforce this daily routine. And the result of this really is it enabled so users who actually enabled the daily calm features had about 52%, I think, higher retention after 6 months. Then overall, they had about 10.2 or 27% or so increase in terms of their retention, right? And of course, from today, I mean, even when they put is a public knowledge for them, is that daily calm is one of the major drivers for their revenue growth at this point. Right. So this is an example of how retention is closely tied towards high retention, closely tied towards increased revenue for any business. So conversion essentially, or conversion metrics, which is another very important metrics, basically refers to user action that creates value for your business, right? So common examples are for e-commerce is purchases, e.g., are you buying a product or for a SaaS? In this case, are you buying subscription to use, for example, Netflix or Amazon Prime? Then for others is sign up, creating of new accounts. For others is content consumption, watching a video, reading an article, reading product details. Of course, social sharing, likes, comments, shares on social media are also an example of conversion metrics. Right, so each conversion represents a different funnel or user journey. So to do a purchase is a different user journey, right, to get to that point. So it's a funnel. So when you want to measure conversion, it's usually a funnel. It starts with step 1, user logs in. Step 2, clicks in the product. Step 3, adds to cart, goes to cart, checks out, put payment details, and delivery, right? I mean, that's an example of a conversion funnel. And it's a different user journey for when you to sign up, right? Sign up could be, oh, I found, I saw the ad on social media, right? I clicked on it, clicked on the link, took the landing page, click on sign up, provide my details, and got an account, right? So to be able to get your head around conversion rates, the general formula really is number of successful conversion divided by total entries into the funnel, right? I'll more of that in the next slide. So this is a table here, which is a purchase funnel. So one column is the funnel steps, second column is the users, number of users, then of course it's drop-off rates, right? So a conversion funnel, like I had mentioned, maps out the key steps the user goes through to complete a specific conversion goal, right? So the conversion goal here in this table is making a purchase, right? So it shows the number of users that reach each step in the funnel. So funnel 1 is the visited product page divided by 100,000 users. The next step is added to carts. About 60,000 people out of the initial 100,000 made it to add a product to the cart. So you have a drop-off rate of 40%. Then enter the payment. So after adding to carts, went through the journey of opening the cart and clicking on checkout. So enter your payment. So about 40,000, right? You see the drop-off rate about 3%. Then completed purchases, about 30,000, about 25% drop-off rates. Right? You can see that the conversion rate in this case is 30%, right? So the reason why this drop-off rate is there is for you to have a sense of how user transition from one step to another step. So it gives you a context for investigating further. So why at the beginning of this funnel we had 100,000, but we have 30,000 exiting this funnel. Why is that? Right. So it basically helps you identify potential area of friction or confusion in the user journey, just so you can make it better. So the overall conversion rates really used by any of the analytics tools I have out there is conversion at the final stage divided by total entries at the first step. So the final stage, which was completed purchase, you had about 30,000, but you had about 100,000 entering into that. Right. So that's about 30%, I think. So lower conversion rates signal opportunity for optimizing your user journey, for optimizing the product or making the product better. All right. So some of the tools that you can use for this, and like I had mentioned, this talk is really very theoretical. Well, I'd love to have another follow-up, which would be more practical. So maybe use Mixed Panel as an example to go through some of these things and we see the real life application. So of course, there's Mixed Panel, there's Power BI, there's Hotjar, and there's, of course, if you want to be very technical, right, you can play around learning SQL, SQL, right, so that you can be able to interact with database. Really, most of these things can be done with SQL, but you have to write a lot of queries. I mean, so there's also LogRocket, which is one of the tools that you can also use for that. Then the key takeaways really is avoiding of potential pitfalls in analysis. So things like data quality issues and incorrect metrics definition, right? So for data quality issues, so it could just be when you're defining the metrics that you want to get. For example, define active users, for example, right? Active users for you could be or user logs in and bot airtime, for example, right? That could be a way for you to identify your active users. But there's a part of how much details of that user do you want to see, right? So you want to see the username, you want to see the device they're using to perform the action, device type here to perform the action, you want to see the email address just in case there's an error. Right, so you should be able to, I mean, when you define those metrics, so you should be able to define those properties of the users you want to see. As much as you want to define the positive action, for lack of better word, which is logs in and did airtime purchase, you also want to capture if the user logs in and there's an error, maybe in the airtime purchase, you also want to think about the negative part of this so that when there's an error, right, you are able to see it from the dashboard. And of course, when you are defining that, again, back to data quality issues, you should also be able to see the error message that user saw. So if it's insufficient funds, if that's the request to the API, for example, returned maybe server is a server error or something like that, really. You should to see that exact message so that you're able to, I mean, this could also help you to be being proactive, really. Because if you're obsessive about looking at the dashboard, immediately you spot that issue, you should be able to raise it up with the engineers really to take a look at it. Right. Um, so partner with data analysts and engineers and software developers is very critical. I know that some organizations don't have data analysts and data engineers, just software developers. I mean, whatever you have in wherever you work, it is very critical when defining these things to have a strong partnership with those areas. So getting stakeholders buying by telling compelling data story is also very important. So if you want to add a new feature, for example, in your engagement or user retention curve, for example, you've gotten to the part of when it's flattening, right? And you want to be able to add more features to engage your power users and possibly get more people to use your product, right? You should be able to use data to convince stakeholders to invest in resources in time. It could be they have to get more people to work on that, or you want to conduct a user research further and you need to allocate some form of budget for that. So you should be able to tell very compelling with data, right? Compelling stories with data, really. Then there should also be a balance. So if you notice throughout this conversation, right? I always talked about quantitative and qualitative, like always talking to your users, not just you see the data, but follow up with talking to your users. So you should have to balance those two. So you should not rely on one part of maybe looking at data and not talking to users and assuming what will happen there is you assume in some scenarios. I mean, assumption could work in some cases. In that cases, it could, I mean, it couldn't work. It won't work. So last part of it is no data lives in a vacuum. So it's a pair metrics with user research. Quantitative tracks what users do, while qualitative surfaces the why. Using both unlocks a full understanding of user behavior. Yeah. Are there any questions at this point? Hello, can you not hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay.
Does
Yes.
anyone have questions? If you can't talk, you can drop them in the chat, in the comment section. This was an insightful session. I especially like the fact that you said that we're using both qualitative and quantitative data. Qualitative data is telling us the why. Quantitative one is making us check in depth into what's going on, what the users do. If you have questions, you can drop them in the chat, in the comment section. Real life analysis, for example. Okay, there's a comment in the comment section. There's a question in the comment section. It says, can we have real life analysis, for example?
I'm struggling to understand. When you say real life analysis, for example, what do you mean? Do you mind like
Faith, do you mind unmuting and explaining? Hello, Faith. Can you hear me?
okay, so maybe I would attempt to because I know that I had mentioned that we could have a follow-up, which we talk about, which will basically go through doing this analysis with real life examples. Right, of course, not real life example because we're still going to use a fictitious company. But throughout
Okay.
our conversation had mentioned I'll give an example really. Or for example, Calm, in the application for people that want to meditate or want to listen to really relaxing sounds so they could fall asleep, right? How they improve their retention really by analyzing their users, type of user that they have. First part of that was, or the type A really are users that are new into meditation or that just got into meditation. Then the other part of this are people that are experts in meditation. Something about meditation is you have to be consistent. It's a habit, right? That you have to be consistent and do it daily. Right. So what they did for that, because after the internal data revealed to them that they had high drop off really, that only 10% of their users were retained after they launched. So they had to introduce a new feature called Daily Calm, sort of reminder that reminds people daily to meditate, do a short meditation really, and they build the habits from there. And that got them a result of about 27, increased their retention to about 27.1%, really. And of course, it's credited as one of the major driver of revenue growth. I mean, that's is a real life example, right, of a company analyzing their user behavior data and taking actions, improving their product and getting a result from it. So I don't know if that answers the question, Pete. Okay.
All right. Any other question? You can drop them in the comment section if you don't want to. If you can't unmute, you can drop your questions in the comment section, please. All right. If there are no more questions, can you see my screen, please? Okay, so this is our taster session for our product analytics course. Thank you so much, Bankole, for such insights that you've given this evening. Thank you for the depth. I love the real life examples, Netflix, Calm, and all the other examples. So this is a tester session for our product analytics course starting on March 30th. All right. So we're calling all product managers if you want to take your skill to the next level, learn how to use data-driven insights to drive growth for your products. Please register for our product analytics course, techlytics.ng/product analytics. We also have other programs coming up. So the course this is it. We also have other programs coming up. We have a data analytics course coming up on April 6th, 2024. The early bird discount is still on for that one. Thank you all so much for this evening. Thank you so much, Bankole. I hope that when we call again, you will oblige us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today, everyone. It was nice to have you with us. Thank you, Shanice. Thank you, Faith. Thank you. Okay, stand up. Okay, okay. I thought there was another question. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a lovely weekend ahead and good evening once again. Bye. Stop. Hello, time. Hello, time. Can she hear me? No. Hello, time. She here. Hello. Hello, sir.